Yes, welcome everyone. Sorry for the technical stuff in the beginning here. I'm Joanne Spencer. I'm the program coordinator from Nassau BOCES Arts and Ed. And I'm just going to quickly introduce a couple of my staff members who are joining us in the chat today. Eileen Masso and Lynn Daniels. If you're registering with Nassau Arts and Ed, they're usually the people you're communicating with.
Okay.
And Loretta.
I'm Loretta Corbacero, Eastern Suffolk BOCES Arts and Ed Coordinator. And I have with me today is Renee Trapani, and Diane Blockson is also in our office. I'm sure you all know Diane. She is off today. So Renee is going to be monitoring the waiting room. So hopefully everybody comes in and joins us, and we'll get you started. So Joanne, I'll turn it back to you.
So we decided to host this meeting for a number of reasons. First of all, we realized that the past many months have been very difficult for the artist community, with schools closing and people trying to switch quickly to virtual and not everyone having the ability to do that, and some of the schools not even being set up well enough to have the virtual programs for all their students. And we know that it's been a serious economic issue for you as well. It's really important that the kids have these programs. And so we're hoping that the conversation today will help assist you in making that possible. And you'll have work and the students will have arts in the schools. Is there anything you want to contribute to that, Loretta?
No, I think it's just important for us. We wanted to do this to help guide you along because we don't know what it looks like in the classroom next year. And what we do know is be prepared, it could change. But we want to give you what we've seen over the past few months that works, what we possibly anticipate could be happening or will happen. And again, things could change as we saw very quickly. But we know you all belong in the schools, you know, and your programs belong in the schools, whatever that looks like. We don't know as of yet. So if we could help guide you along and at least give you some of the resources to aid you to be able to do that, we want to make sure we do that for you.
So we think now more than ever, kids need the arts.
Absolutely.
So let me just tell you a little bit about the mechanics. Everyone should remain muted. We've got 125 artists signed up for this Zoom workshop. We may be able to present additional workshops. So if you have friends who were not able to sign up or ended up on a wait list, then that's a possibility for the future during the summer. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. So if you don't know, near the bottom of your screen, there's a little bubble and under it, it says chat. And you can click on that and then address your questions to everyone. We ask that you please put your email address, identify yourself, put your email address. So that way afterwards, we can all continue communicating. We hope to, this is being recorded and we hope to send it out to everyone or to have it possibly available to additional artists. And we'll also send out the chat. And I think that's it on the procedural stuff.
Okay, so what we know is right now, most of you do in-person type of learning, in-person type of programs, whether students come to you, whether you go to students, whether it's a field trip, whether it's a performance. Obviously, things have changed. So what we would like to really express to our, and I'm going to just use the term artists. And of course, when we say this, it could be vendors, performers, museums, you know, accompanists. These are all, we're just blanketing everybody under the term artist. So what you should prepare with your programs is the different types of learning that's happening right now. So we have obviously the types of learning. So if you have a program, let's say you're going into the school to deliver that program. So you're in the school with the students, whether it's an auditorium or whether it's the classroom. Now, we should be able to adjust that program, okay, for what happens if you can't come to the school, but the students are in school, which looks like this will be happening in September. So the students will be there, but we know that they're limiting any visitors, if at all. So how can you deliver your program? You could deliver your program possibly the way we're doing it now, where the students will log on from their classroom, the teacher would log on, and there would be you on the other end of either Skype or Zoom, and we'll get into all of that in a little bit. So you could have the students in the classroom where you're delivering your program outside of the classroom. Or we could have the students at home and you're at home, like we were towards the end of this this school year. So the students might be at home being able to log in on their own through a different platform, and they're logging in, you know, to see your program. We also have where the artists, where any combination of that. Okay, so the students might be in school half a day, and they might go home the other half. They might do A days, B days. So we want to make sure that all students, if they're divided in their instruction and they're in different locations, would still get the same experience. So think and consider all of these different types of learning as you develop your programs. I also have where the artist is virtual and the students log in. We did go over that. Students at home. And then we also have the types of programs. So what you would have synchronous programs where you're actually doing something the same way we are now. It's live, it's synchronous. The students are learning as you're presenting, so you're right there. But then you also have asynchronous. What is asynchronous? That could be in the form of a website. It could be in the form of a YouTube video. It could be in the form of where students are looking at recordings or they're interacting with your website. Maybe they're doing answering questions on the website. Maybe they're watching a brief video that you recorded. There could also be a combination of. So you might have where you're showing them a video, or you have a YouTube, you have the website interacting, and then maybe a week later you follow up in a situation like this where you're doing Q&A. So that could also be blended. So keep these things in mind as you develop your new programs for our catalog. Could it be the same program? Sure, it could be the same thing, just delivered in several different ways. And Joanne, if you want to talk about naming the, you know, what we think is best probably for our schools for the programs, listing them.
So we've had a lot of questions as artists have begun registering. Well, it's not in school anymore, right? Because it's virtual. Well, they still can be in school because the students may be in school part-time.
Right.
So I would say leave them in school. For Nassau BOCES purposes, we are asking you to put virtual in the title. And we've also got a little backup system where you can select virtual.
We're doing the same thing for East
so that
Suffolk.
they can't miss you if you have a virtual program.
Right. And there might be teachers that are strictly looking virtual.
Yeah.
And that's what they'll see.
Mm-hmm. I want to mention that it's really important that the teacher be in the virtual workshop.
Mm-hmm.
So just as though you would have a teacher in a classroom if you were doing a workshop, they should be online. All right?
Yeah, absolutely. The teacher has to be the same way. And our contracts, as you know, when you sign, you're signing that you will not be alone with the students, that a teacher will be present. It's the same thing with the online learning. Okay, so if you have students that you are interacting with them, the teacher has to be present. So when we talk about the different types of virtual platforms, one thing that you'll need to do is when a teacher or an administrator reaches out to you, you will have to ask them what type of learning platform they use. I know a lot of artists like to use Facebook and Instagram. They'll do Facebook Live. I will tell you, I don't know of any schools that allow their students to log into Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or anything like that. A lot of schools are even moving away from Zoom, and they want their meetings to take place using Google Meets or MS Teams. So find out the platforms. I would suggest you go on. I mean, if you're familiar with using Zoom, MS Teams, Google Meet, they all have something a little bit different, but they're pretty much the same. So that's something you'll need to do, because it's probably not the best position to say to a school, oh, I only use Zoom. It's best to say, what platform should I deliver this through? And that's how you deliver it, because they're going to have their students using specific programs. Now that, I mean, in the beginning, I think it was whatever they could do to have students participating. But now, as this is becoming more of a way of delivering instruction, it will be consistent across the schools and the teachers and what they're using. I know I teach at Farmingdale as an adjunct, and in the beginning of this pandemic, I had students who were going through 6 different learning platforms because every professor was using something different. But moving forward, we are only able to use either Meet, Teams, or Blackboard. That's it. So that's something that we've been informed of, because that's what the college supports. And so you'll have to reach out to the schools to find out. Let's see, program listings create multiple programs, even if the content is the same, so that virtual will appear in that. And I'm going to give you an example. I don't know if she's on this call, but like, let's say, should I show the website now, Joanne? Should we do that? I'll share my screen.
Sure.
I'm just going to show you an example of what some of our teaching artists did towards right after the pandemic hit to deliver instructions. And I've been sharing this out with our school leaders and teachers. I was doing Cyber Showcase Tuesday and sharing it out, because I know some people, it's hard. It's hard to imagine your program as a virtual program. You're live. You want to go into the classroom. You want to deliver this program this way. But there are ways to modify it to some extent. So I'm just going to show you real quickly. Let's see. Maybe I won't. Renee, am I still the host? Am I the host?
No,
I have
I'm
to
the
reclaim host. I'm sorry. Give me a minute to reclaim.
While Loretta's doing that, I just want to mention that you are the host. If you're presenting a Zoom or a Teams or whatever, you are the host.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, John Bertels. Zoom is definitely better for music.
Yeah. Okay, so this here, what I did was I just quickly went over, I'll give you an example of instruction. So we had the Brookhaven Lab, and what the Brookhaven Lab did, actually, no, let me go to Cornell Cooperative. So what Cornell Cooperative did is they put together their digital website, their virtual instruction. And what they did was they combined, I'll just click on Seahorses for now. So they did this each and every week. They gave their teacher and family resources. They put videos up. They have coloring sheets. This is something students could do on their own. Now, Cornell comes in, they do these programs, but now this is the digital version of this program. So just reimagine it where it could be that the students will answer these questions and then they'll come back for a live discussion, so you could combine it. So they could come with their content, their Seahorses. I know they have like those little touch tanks that they use. So they could deliver all this instruction live in the classroom, or they could deliver the same instruction when students go to Cornell to visit. Now, this is the digital version, which again, it's the same, but if we put virtual ahead of it, then our schools will know that this Seahorse program is available, and then we could do a combination as well. So the same thing goes for, let me find someone in dance. So in dance, we have Danielle Fusco. Now again, Danielle comes and does live programs with the students. She does residencies. But she created this website just to address online learning. And what Danielle did is, again, because of this, the pandemic hit so fast and quick, and students were now learning from their homes instead of their classroom, she put up a couple of free videos that students could go to and they could have their dance instruction. But then she also did a I lost my screen, paid content residency. So this is where her arts and ed program would come in when they want to continue the instruction, but they're doing it, she would then do it through Zoom, and she would do it through other learning platforms, and she would have discussions with the students. So it was more of a synchronous lesson rather than the asynchronous, and she was charging for that. So the custom offsite interactive residency. So yes, you can do dance, you can do yoga, you can do these things online. So we had quite a few artists that did this, and schools were booking their programs. They did. So I'm going to stop sharing this now because I don't want to spend too much time on that. I just wanted to give you an idea that it can be done, and multiple different platforms or different ways to deliver the programs. Do you have anything to add to that, Joanne?
I just want to mention that Nassau BOCES is developing an online repository. Artists won't be sending in their paper materials anymore. We won't be distributing them at our meetings. Probably won't have those meetings live. They'll probably be virtual with the districts. So in a way, this is better for you because you're going to be saving on printing costs. And I believe that the area of distribution will increase tremendously because we can just send a link to a district and then they can shoot that link out to any number of people rather than just have a copy or two of your brochure. And while I mention that, there's an advantage to these virtual programs. You know, let's say you live way out in, you know, the east end of Long Island or towards Queens, and maybe you don't want to travel all around Long Island. You don't have to do that anymore necessarily if we're doing virtual programs. You can be pretty much anywhere. So that is a big advantage.
That is an advantage, Joanne, and I know, I don't know if they're in your catalog, I'm pretty sure they are. We have schools contract, and they always have, with the Cleveland Museum of Art. Okay, the Cleveland Museum of Art has a webinar type of program for art history, and local districts here contract with them. So even, let's say, Brookhaven Lab, they're going to do now to have Brookhaven Lab right here on Long Island. The students love that program. They love to participate. The teachers like it. Well, it's really limited to students that live in Suffolk County, maybe Nassau County, if they can, you know, depending on how close they are. But now think, they could deliver that no matter where a student lives. They can, people from Ohio could sign up for that program. So knowing that you're doing this, you can in some ways open up your program to beyond our little area here. So keep that in mind as well. And Joanne, I just sent you a message.
Right, and I just sent in a message. Please read.
I'm not sure why we have a limit on this because we shouldn't have.
We have a presenter we're trying to, a fellow presenter we're trying to get in this meeting.
I don't see him in the waiting room right now.
He's saying he's not able to get in at all.
He should be able to if he jumps in right now. Because we have 98 right here now.
Okay. Here's hoping.
Yeah, as soon as he comes in. So we do have a presenter that, actually, you know what, Joanne, if you want to go into the pricing, maybe we'll do that
Sure.
while we're waiting for
There
Glenn.
have
Here
been
he goes.
a lot of questions about what should you charge. Now, I am of the belief that you should not give away your intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
Content of what you're doing is your intellectual property, and I don't believe that we have found ways to protect that well on the internet, if at all. That's another great big long discussion, but don't give away what you do. I personally feel that your prices should be very similar to your in-school pricing.
Yeah.
Sure, if you want to give a little bit of a discount because you're not traveling, but I wouldn't I wouldn't undercut your work. That's my
No.
personal feeling on this. Loretta,
No.
you have anything to add to that?
No, you should be compensated for it. You know, in addition to that, I mean, you are preparing your program. You're putting the work in. I'm sorry, I seem a little distracted. I'm trying to find Glenn so that I could unmute
I'm
him.
in. I'm in.
You're in, okay, and you're muted.
Yay,
Glenn.
Glenn.
Yay, okay.
Okay, I thought you saw me there. Okay.
So, okay, there you go. So yes, you should include your pricing, and there are ways, and this is something where I think at some point I'll reach out to some of the artists that have done this already. I wouldn't say offer free content, but some of your content might be out there. We did have a few in the beginning. I don't know if any of you know Kershal Anthony. I don't know if he signed on, but he did a very successful Zoom program. And after this all started, and what they did was he did snippets of the program just to get the kids up and moving, but then he did paid content. But I'm not sure how to set that up. So I'm going to reach out to artists that have done that, because what you'd want to do is you'd want to have paid programming where teachers have to log in using a specific password so that just not everybody can get to it. You know, this is, like Joanne said, it's your intellectual property, it's your program. You don't want to give it away, and you certainly don't want it to be there for everybody to use. Maybe a little bit, maybe just you know, a 5-minute video or something like that would be fine if you wanted to, but there is a way to protect yourself from it. So I will reach out to some of the artists that did it successfully these past few months and see if they have any advice going forward.
Additionally, for many of you, there may be additional costs for the technology. You may be in a situation where you have to pay a consultant to help you with this. You know, you might be buying microphones or special lighting, depending on what type of program you run. So please don't undercut yourself on the costs.
No, and that's something, that's why we invited our guest speaker, because if you're doing videos, or even if you're doing a Zoom meeting, or you know, any of these online meetings, there are certain ways to set this up. It's almost like cinematography, where you have to worry about your lighting and your backgrounds and things of that nature for it to be professional. So Glenn, I don't see you up on my screen, but I know you're here.
I see you.
You do? Okay. So I have to scroll through and find you. But if you wouldn't mind, Joanne, we're ready to turn it over to Glenn.
Absolutely.
Glenn has some helpful tips that you could use when developing your program, and the things that you should look out for. So Glenn, we're going to turn it over to you, and I see you now. Hello.
There you are. I assume there's like 100 people on this thing. I only see about 20. That's fine.
I know, right.
All right, so you can either ask me questions or pop them on the bottom with the email, but I'm going to try to break it down into 3 parts: microphones, lighting, and then what we call green screen. So I'll get to that in a minute. So most of you right now are using the microphone in your computer. It's a generic microphone. It's not always great for audio and stuff like that. You can purchase what's called a USB microphone that plugs right into your computer. That will give you much better sound quality. They range from $50 to like $500. I don't suggest you get the $500 one. Get something in the $100 to $150 range. It's like a Hyundai to Cadillac, per se, if that makes sense. And there's a bunch of companies. You don't have to write this down, but Audio Technica, Bluetooth, and a company called Shure. Shure's probably the most bang for your buck, and they're a good product. They're an American product too. So if that helps any of you. So that'll help you with the sound. If you're doing something with multiple people at the same time, it gets a semi-bit more complicated. I would ask that you contact me separately, and we can work with that, because you can either make a track and then everybody can play to the track, but if you want to do it live, it gets very complicated. Kind of what you see on the TV shows, either Today Show, you know, the morning shows or the nighttime talk shows. That's complicated, and they have a whole staff that's doing that. And it's a technology that's evolving, like all of this stuff. Also, and I mentioned that this stuff is in high demand. So if don't wait till the last minute to get some of this stuff. So if you're gonna sign up and you've got these lectures going, make sure you leave yourself some time to get some of these products if you need it. All right, so lighting, I mean, I can see most of you, but there are individual lighting kits ranging from 1 light to 5 lights. I'm gonna suggest something in the 2 light realm, and you put lights on like a 45 on you. They're not that expensive, like in the couple $100 range. There's a company called AGJ who makes great lighting packages. You can Google all this stuff, or you could contact me and I can send you pricing. Either way works for me. Somebody asked, can you suggest a delay that will help with the music? The delay usually comes from your computer program. It's hard if you watch any of the TV shows, you see it's a big problem. And the people that don't have that delay are using very sophisticated equipment and very fast computers. So it might be something you'd have to live with for a little bit, or you can go out and invest in a faster computer, which will help that. I see Loretta just popped my info on the bottom there. So lighting is very simple, and it would all be LED lighting. You can just plug it into the wall. Now I'm looking at your pictures. I see Katie here. Don't take offense, Katie. You're in the dark a little bit, so you might want to get some lighting, and then a couple other people are brighter. It just helps you. Mr. Magic Amore, are you using a green screen behind you, or blue screen? I don't hear you.
He's muted.
Everybody's muted, Glenn.
Oh, it's okay. Okay, so just shake your head, yes or no. Are you using a blue or green screen? No. So what is that behind you? That's an actual curtain and stuff? Okay. We can't unmute him. All right. So a green screen would put, or a blue screen.
I'll unmute him. Maybe.
I'm just using you as an example because I see you. There you are. So what's the backdrop behind you?
So on Zoom, there is a
okay, so you're doing it one step forward. Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, I do have a green screen that I can use, but I'm not doing. Actually, I'm not even in. I'm just in my office. I'm not even in my studio.
Right. So he's using Zoom and he's putting that backdrop behind him. He's transposing it right behind him. That stuff you can either do with a green or blue screen, or on Zoom you can do it. You just pick out. They have a whole bunch of samples. You can just pick out from one of those. That makes sense. So you're not looking at, forgive me, your kitchen or bedroom or something. It just gives you a little more professional ability. He picked something that looks like the Magic Frame. They're almost unlimited, so you can find stuff, and you can put some custom stuff in there. It's just a little bit more tricky. Those are the basic points. We're not doing question and answering because it's too hard for 100 people.
It's going to be too many people to manage. So I think the written questions, and if there's something that really jumps out, we'll bring it up to you. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Talk about a little bit of the differences between the lighting and sound needs for, let's say, an individual that's sitting at their computer and can present a program, and let's say a theater or a dance program, or a group of musicians.
So I kind of lost you for a second. Say it again. I'm trying to read.
Okay. The differences in lighting and sound that would be needed if you are an individual, maybe sitting at your computer or in a chair with your camera focused on you.
I gotcha.
Versus a group.
So if you're doing a group, you'd all want individual microphones, and you'd all be I assume in different places, correct, Joanne?
Not always.
Not always. So you can
Socially distanced, they don't need to be necessarily.
Correct. Okay. So you can put all these microphones into one source and then send them to your computer, and it's called like a mixer type thing. You can balance the levels for that. But I recommend everybody has one. If you're doing, especially a musical thing, everybody has their own individual mics. Don't try to just use the microphone on the computer, because you'll all get different volumes as you're spaced out away from the computer itself. In terms of lighting, you want to get it. You want the lighting to be brighter than you think, and you can just test it by looking at your computer. You don't want to keep it too dark, stuff like that. Depends if you're in a basement with no light, then it's going to be darker than if you're in your kitchen or family room or something where you've got light and stuff like that. Does that answer the question? I see a bunch of people have, backgrounds around them.
Mhm. I also want to point out that something really simple, if you are sitting by a window um, behind you, that may, whiten you out a bit. So you
Yeah,
might
you
want
don't
to
want to put,
reposition
but
yourself.
you don't want to put the light directly on you. That's why I recommend the two lights. Lighting works on like a 45-degree angle, so you want to put two lights on you from corners. You don't want to put it directly on you. It's going to make it very shadowy, and you're going to look like a ghost.
And
Say.
the other thing, even with the virtual backgrounds, if I could just add, sometimes the parts of your body will cut in and out of the virtual background. So you might get pixelated. There you go.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I see you,
Patricia's doing it.
Patricia.
Yeah, you see, yeah.
Sometimes we see Patricia's hand and sometimes not. So be careful with that as well. It's something, but I think it's important, and you're seeing it now all over the news, how you could really learn a lot about a person by the background that they have in their Zoom. So,
Correct.
it's not really information you want to give up, although I have my messy background behind me. I'm in my office today. We're actually moving across the hall, so it's not as messy as usual.
Correct.
um,
And this technology is gonna change very fast. I mean, I don't know how long we're gonna be in this. I'm easily guessing it's gonna be through the first of the year, probably longer, but all these companies are scrambling to come out with new products. So, every month there's gonna be new stuff out there. So just either check in with me or just, Google stuff like that. You can always see.
and
But
I'm going to read, John Bertles just gave a very helpful hint to everybody. If you aren't squinting, you don't have enough light.
that's a good point. Yes. Like if
Thanks, John.
if you ever gone to a TV show or TV filming or any kind of thing, if you looked at the monitor, and then you looked at the stage, it would be night and day. It would be, the TV screen would be much darker than what you're seeing on the stage. That's the factor of TV or cameras themselves. It needs to be much brighter than what you're seeing. So, but it's a good thing if you're squinting. That's a good thing. So.
Okay. If there's any other questions, put them in the chat. And I'm going to look through some of the questions in the chat. Glenn, I guess this would be you. Is there any way to minimize the light coming from your computer screen other than lowering the display light?
No, lowering the display light is the right answer.
Okay.
That shouldn't really affect it. You really shouldn't be bothered by the light coming from your computer screen. I mean, it's just going to give you more light.
Okay. And then what do you think of the ring light, Glenn? A ring light?
Say it again. Lighting can be. Say
What do
it
you
again.
think of the ring light? That's from Janice Buckner.
I'm not sure what she's referring to. Ring light?
Yeah, ring light.
I think that just must be a generic name.
Okay.
For
No, it's shaped
lighting.
like a ring.
Yeah, I assume that. Yes, those are kinds of manufacturers' names for lights and stuff like that.
Okay. Mark Binder, Heather asked this question: is there going to be arts and education funding this year? The concern is that schools will not fund it at all. We don't know. Okay. We do feel that, I mean, I know that we booked probably about 70 to 90 contracts during the time school buildings were closed down. Those were new contracts for programs, because I think when we first went out, everybody thought it was maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. Once we realized it was longer term, teachers, administrators, parents, they wanted these types of programs, okay? And not everybody was ready to deliver a program like this. So will there be funding? We hope so. We have schools that are already looking to book virtual programs. So we do have some of that. And I think my son said it. He said that he feels that the new way of life right now is going to be what makes people feel comfortable and what gives them those reassurances. So if we already have programs that our schools can go to, then our teachers, they need this, and the students need this. They need something different. So we have to make them feel comfortable with what we have. And I know every one of you can deliver your programs in a virtual way in some way, shape, or form. And our schools do need that, and they do want that. So will there be funding? Joanne, I don't, do you?
Well, I can say that this is the time where the Nassau districts are signing what they call a letter of intent.
Mhm.
It's an approximate number of what they think they're going to be spending in the program. And there are a few districts that are maybe lowering their spending, but it doesn't seem to be tremendous. I've had one district say, not funding this year,
Mhm.
but for the most part, the districts are funding similar to what they funded at the beginning of last year.
I have the same situation.
You're being
So
hopeful.
I am hopeful because I do have the
Mhm.
same, we're doing the same thing, what they intend to commit for using throughout the year. Most of them have stayed relatively this, I don't want to say the same because generally what our districts do is they continue to add through the year. So they're starting off pretty much the same as where they started off last year. I did have 2 districts that said that they're not going to do anything going forward in September until they have a better idea of what education looks like, which will bring us to the next topic that we want to discuss. But I just want to look through some of these questions. I'll do that. But Joanne, if you want to start, I will actually share my screen so that everybody could see our
Sure.
next
So
update
regarding
that came out today.
the questions for lighting and sound and
Okay.
other technical issues, I think that Glenn is going to be responding to a lot of those when we send the chat out.
Absolutely, yes, yes.
Okay, so
Feel free to email me even after this
Mhm.
meeting and I'll get back to you shortly.
Now, Glenn, do you offer consultation services for any of our artists?
I can, yes.
Ken,
yes.
okay, so that would be something privately on your own. If you were interested in using Glenn to help you set up your format, because I know this is very different for a lot of us.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
also to keep in mind, I'll share these links in the chat. The first one we're looking at right here, always keep in mind, the more you can connect to content, the better it is for our districts and for our students, is if you can connect to learning standards. So I am going to share the learning standards for the arts. I'll share these links in the chat so that you can look through these. I mean, you should probably do it anyway. I have to go back to the chat. I'll have to find the chat. Let's see.
they are on the Nassau BOCES Arts and Ed website.
Well, there you go.
So we will link.
They're probably on ours too, but I'm just not sure
Yeah.
where. So, but I'll share these at the end before we sign off because I can't get to the chat right now while I'm sharing my screen. So yeah, this would be the link for the art standards. I have the link for digital content resources, which again, this is something that NICE had put up, New York State Education Department. And then today they did release, is this it?
Yeah.
This was released today. This is the guidelines for reopening. So it's chock full of 100 and something pages of important information. But one thing that did stand out to Joanne and I am sure, is limiting visitors into a school. And again, this can change depending on where we are in this pandemic. So it could change for better or for worse. So it's something to keep in mind, but that is one thing that is pretty clear. But there is also, let me share this with you. There is something here. Actually, you know what? I screenshot one of Governor Cuomo's little presentations, the Cuomo presentations. But I just want you to look at this one line here, because as they were developing these, there is a focus on the arts, career and tech ed, and labs that are better for in-person instruction. So they really wanted to focus on how this can be delivered. And when you go through, this document, you will see there is a section on the arts, certain things like they want to limit singing and anything where you're exerting yourself, but the suggestion is maybe it's done outdoors with 12 feet distance between. So, let's see if I can get to this. Hold on. Let me go here.
By the way, the school districts have to submit plans to the state by
By the
July
end of the month.
31st.
Yeah, and then the actual guidelines and the plans will be discussed the first week of August. Is that correct, Joanne?
Yes.
So in-person instruction, and they're all talking about hybrids. So when you're putting together your programs, the best thing to do would be a hybrid program of where you can change from in-person, which I don't think most of us are going to be in the schools, not from the beginning. I don't see that happening.
Right.
To
In
remote-
fact, several of the Nassau districts administrators have shared with me that their districts just are not going to have any visitors, at least at the beginning of the year.
Beginning of the
And
year.
they don't know going forward.
So it's definitely important to have that. But that guide that I just showed you has a lot of resources that could help you build your programs. And it is, they speak about the arts being, as far as the learning standards, that creating and performing might be difficult to do. So to focus on the connecting and the responding, because that could be done more easily online. All right, and I'm going to stop sharing now.
I'm going to suggest that if you are not already using Zoom or Google Meet or Teams or any of the platforms, that you look into them and start investigating. They have tutorials.
Mm-hmm.
You might even want to get into a chat with a family member, a fellow artist, and work together to try to become more familiar with the programs. That really will be very helpful. I really think that the networking in the artist community is very valuable here. You can help each other
Yes.
to become up to speed. And I'm not going to tell you that I'm the most up to speed, because I'm certainly not. But I'll help you in any way I can. So will Loretta and our staffs.
And the other thing to point out is if you're not involved with any of the professional organizations, especially in the arts, such as NYSSMA, NYSADA, New York State Foundation of the Arts, NISCAME, it might be a good idea to get involved with them or to reach out to them, because a lot of these groups, I'll use NYSADA as an example, that's the New York State Art Teachers Association. So they mostly deal with the visual and media arts. They are developing this as a cohort of professionals. They're developing what it should look like for the art teachers. So it might be beneficial to you to reach out to those organizations, or maybe follow them on Facebook, or see if they have any Zoom workshops that you could join, so that it could help you develop your programs. The music programs have similar professional organizations, and so do theater groups. So they all have these groups of professionals that get together, and they are working with themselves to develop these plans of what education will look like.
We will post or send to you all of the links to the various professional associations for dance, music, visual and media arts, and who did I leave out? Theater.
Dance, theater, music, visual,
Right.
and performing, yeah.
Oh, something I want to mention, I was involved in a project with a professional music organization, and everyone is doing their own performing at home. And we noticed that camera placement is really important. So if you're standing playing an instrument and you've got this camera angle where it's shooting up at you, you look like you're 12 feet tall, and it's kind of ominous. So just be mindful that camera positioning is important for your presentations.
So that's it. Yeah, so between lighting, sound, background, and the position of the camera, those are all important things. And you know, there's a lot of information out there right now because so many people are using these meetings to, this is how people are holding meetings right now. So, and the other thing, again, the best tip that Joanne and I could give you is prepare for your plan to change constantly.
Yes. Let me
We
interject something on the
decided that
camera.
was the best tip.
Let me interject something on the cameras. You want to be looking right into the camera. You want whoever's on the other side, i.e. the students, to be seeing your face expressions. You don't want it to be a down shot or, like she said, an up shot or off center. And then whatever your background is, if it's important to you, make sure some of that can be seen. If it's less important, then you want to focus more on your facial features so you can get that expression out to your people. I mean, these schools are going to, I'm speaking a little bit out of turn, but these schools are going to be looking for ways to educate their students in the arts. And it's, nobody's going to be doing school shows for a while. They're going to try to figure out ways to replace this stuff once they figure out what school's going to look like and stuff like that.
And they will do school shows. They will do theater. It's just not necessarily going to be with the students on a stage together, but
Right,
it might be, yeah. So you can develop programs that speak to that, and maybe it's a little bit different. Maybe instead of them just passively watching a performance, you can teach the students how to, where your positioning should be, and offer helpful tips, maybe interview with the actors. There are many different ways to have a program. It just might look a little different than what you've been doing.
Very true.
I'd also like to suggest that if you have a relationship with a music, art, theater, dance teacher, that you might want to talk to them about what they think would work in their schools and what types of programs they're looking for that maybe you could develop that are similar to what you've been doing, or how you could change your program to meet the needs of the virtual platform.
Right. I'm just going to look in the chat. Patricia She has a question. Can you address the issue of schools recording our shows for future use instead of hiring us again? Well, that's something I would recommend finding. I know, like YouTube, if you do a YouTube show, you can shut off the date. Like it's only available for certain viewing. There are also ways to link things, and I don't know that schools would do that, because they really, that comes under the copyright issues, and using they can't use certain music or watch recordings without having permissions to do so. So I would think that they'd have to ask your permission, and I don't think they could record. I mean, again, I don't know, I'm not an attorney, but I would suggest reaching out to an attorney on that. But I don't know that schools are really going to do that so that they could keep using it. They're contracting with you for that one performance, and that's what they're contracting for.
So many artists have individual contracts that they make the schools sign. Now, if you're doing a BOCES program, it can't involve the money aspect because that's coming through BOCES. But I see nothing wrong with your stating that in your contract with the school or the PTA that the program is not to be recorded without your permission. And then clearly you're not going to give your permission. There was something in the chat about PTAs paying for the program. I just want to remind you, most school districts will put their arts programming through their BOCES because of the aid that they get back at the end of the school year. A report goes to the state, and then in the next year, payments are made back to the district in the form of aid. So if a PTA is booking your program and pays you directly, there's no aid involved. If it costs $1,000, that's $1,000 that they've spent. But if it goes through a BOCES program, every school district has its own aid ratio, and the average aid is at least 55% at this point. And that means that the following year, the district gets money back that they can then put again into arts programming. So I would encourage all of you to encourage the schools and the PTAs to use the BOCES program because it's so beneficial financially
It is.
to districts.
Then the following year, they would have more money to spend, or it would be less likely to be cut from their program, from their budget, because they have this money to spend. So the PTAs, generally what they'll do is they'll make a donation to the school for, to the district for specific events or for specific programs. So if the PTAs are reaching out to you directly, it benefits everybody, especially the schools, to have them go through BOCES, like Joanne said, because then it becomes aidable. If they don't go through BOCES, it's not aidable. If they go through BOCES, it is. And it does help them in the long run, and it helps all of us in the long run to be able to do that.
So Nassau BOCES is still requiring everyone to have insurance. That question was brought up.
We do
every
too.
BOCES.
We do too. We're not, if a district, if anything, you want to have insurance. You really do. I can't imagine how you would go into a school or why without insurance, or you just really want to protect yourself. It's really about protecting yourself. We require it also. So when you sign the contract, you're attesting to the fact that you have insurance. Do we always ask you for the certificate? No, but a school could. If they do, you need to prepare it. And if something happens, you need to be sure that you have that insurance.
Yes, and Nassau BOCES years ago was collecting the certificates because we were told we had to. We're not doing that anymore. It's incumbent on you to have the insurance. Right. And if a school district requires it, then you've got to show them your certificate.
Yeah, you have to produce it. So a suggestion to everybody from Lisa DiLiberto to make sure you test your platform. Absolutely. And again, very important to find out the platform that the schools are using, because you might be all ready to go with Facebook Live, but they're not using Facebook Live. So you don't want to set yourself up like that. And again, between the Google Meet and MS Teams and Zoom, they're all very similar platforms.
Google Classroom, that's what most schools are using.
Google Classroom, they do that too. And the Google Meet is part of the G Suite, I guess?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so it's Google Classroom, G Suite, which is Google Meet, and MS Teams, that's another one. I heard there was one called Blue Jean, which I don't know.
I think Google Classroom is free. I believe so. If the district, one of my office staff knows better than me, but if the district has it, it's free to you to use it. So
there's also Skype.
Should virtual shows be shorter, maybe 25 minutes rather than 45? Would that be welcomed by the schools? I can't really answer that, but I think it just might give you more opportunity if a school is looking for a shorter program. So it might be something that they would want to see is a condensed version or a shorter version. It wouldn't hurt to do so.
There's also Skype. I don't know if that was brought up before. That's another possible platform.
Okay, Kristen Cuomo, Blue Jeans, because it offers more privacy and protection. Okay. Thank you for the legal link.
You can also move your YouTubes to private, but you have to do that individually.
You can move that, and then you could turn it on and off for a date. Or if you're, let's say you have a program that a school is booking, they have this program, it involves a YouTube video, you could set it to be on for the week or the day of that program, and then it goes off, and nobody will have access to it after that. So you could just activate it this way. You're protecting yourself and your content.
So if you have questions about how to register, contact either Eastern Suffolk BOCES or Nassau BOCES. We'll put our contact information up on the chat as well for everyone. And
we'll probably do this as a follow-up email with all of the links, because I think people are going to start signing off soon. Joyce, you have a question here, Joyce Raimundo. When you list a program as virtual, can you also put that description that's available face-to-face? Joanne, Joyce, 2 programs. List your one as you normally would. You go in, you paint your murals, you do a project with the students, then list the other one as virtual. Even if it's the same content, list it as 2 different programs, because I'm not sure how the schools are going to be searching. The teachers might come out and search, or the parents might come out and search, and they might just look virtual. They go right through the catalog and go right to virtual. And I would not want you to miss out on that because they didn't look through the paragraph, the program description, to see that you offer it virtual. So just have it listed 2-3 times. For us, no, you could list as many programs as you want, and you wouldn't have to pay for that. Joanne, I don't know how your system works.
So we're giving deep discounts this year for our programs, and we'll be happy to discuss it with you individually.
And Christina, I think I just answered that question. Yes, the program descriptions could be exactly the same, but instead of coming to your classroom or a field trip, it would be virtual. And for a residency, you could also say we could deliver this hybrid, but I would definitely make sure virtual is in there, because I have a feeling that schools are just going to scroll down that list and look for programs that they could do online. I just want to make sure anything put on YouTube can be recorded by anyone who can see it. Not if it's private with a link. There are ways, this is Petra Puppets. There are ways to set up that only people with that link can view it for a specific set amount of time that you have. So if if you have a program tomorrow, Saturday, what is it, July 18th, I guess it's what it would be. You could have that program, that YouTube video available to whoever has that direct link for that day from 4 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then it turns off.
There's a question here about, do we send the virtual programs to the schools? No, we arrange the contracts.
Mm-hmm.
You do everything else. You're sending them a link or whatever access you're giving them directly, and
Right.
make it
Yeah, we're
very
not
clear
facilitating
to
that.
them exactly what you're offering virtually, because if they're used to your regular in-school program, you want to be very clear with them what and how it's being presented virtually.
Right. Also, I was going to say something else and now I forgot. Okay, so this is the, oops. I'm going to send this to
And
everyone.
as far as contacting the schools, there's a question about that. If you have relationships with the schools, with specific people in the schools, continue that way. But
Yeah.
you're not going to get too far, I think, with cold calling. I would say the best thing that you can do is find someone in the school that you can communicate with, and they can share that information with others. This is how a lot of programs end up in many different schools. The PTAs talk to each other.
Right.
The principals talk to each other. The teachers talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the best way. That and our marketing through our
Right.
websites is probably the best thing at this point, including the virtual catalogs.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to do. We normally send out, and I think you do something like this too, Joanne. We send out a newsletter monthly and we send out a spotlight. Now, our spotlight is pretty much themed by category. So whether it's theater, whether it's visual arts, whether it's sciences, this year, obviously, we're going to do a heavy focus on our virtual programming so that our schools know what's out there. And that goes out to every district in Suffolk County.
Mm-hmm. So you'll notice that every BOCES that you work with, and some of you may work with many BOCES, we do things all a little bit differently. And I realize that can be very confusing. And so I want to apologize that we all aren't exactly doing things the same way.
Yeah,
But
I don't know why we don't, but we
don't.
don't.
And
I
we'll
did get
help
the
you
web
through
link.
the differences. The staffs of both BOCES are wonderful. They're patient. They'll walk you through things.
Mhm.
And we're here for you.
We are.
And
We're always here for you. I did put the links in the chat, so I'll give you a couple of minutes if you want to copy those. Let's see, the deadline, Luann, for us, we like to have you fill out your applications over the summer so that we could have everything prepared. We stop accepting applications by the end of the calendar year, so by the end of December. However, if you were not in our catalog and a district requests you and they really want to book your services, upon district request, we will go from January through June. But we usually, our hard cutoff is usually December.
And Nassau is a bit different.
Okay,
We usually don't shut down artist registration till April.
okay. We could book contracts, we'll book contracts, but the only way we add a new artist after the first of the new year is on district request. But we could still add you up until the last minute.
Mhm. So I want to say thank you to all of you for staying with us through our little technical difficulties here and everything else. And we're wishing you a good school year and lots of health, good health.
Good
and
health,
safety.
yes. Good health and a good school year. And who knows, maybe this will expand your programs, because ultimately you all love to do what you do for the students. And you know what? When you set this up digitally and in this type of learning, you can reach even more students than you did previously.
And they
So-
don't even have to be on Long Island, actually.
That's
You
right. They
can
don't.
reach
You can reach
out.
students in California,
Virtually.
Colorado, wherever. And
So I'm done talking. I think I've done enough.
yeah, I feel like I've done enough too, unless unless you have any more questions. But again, feel free to email me or Joanne or us, our staff. We are always here to help you. We want to see you have successful year, no matter what that looks like, and a healthy one too.
The best to all of you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.